There you go.
He read my mind. Wonderful. Welcome everybody to today's Workplace Creating an Environment of Inclusion. This is such an important topic in the workplace right now, so we are just delighted to bring this to you. Just a couple of quick housekeeping things. With today's session, it is going to be about 45 minutes, and we'll have about 15 minutes of Q&A at the end. You have been muted automatically. If you would like to come off mute to answer one of the questions, just use the little raise hand icon at the bottom of your screen, and our technical person, Michael, will bring you off mute and allow you to talk. But we also have the chat box open, and we're going to be using that a lot today. Just make sure that when you are responding, that where it says to, that you've clicked on to all panelists and attendees. Otherwise, it will just come to the panelists. So make sure that you click on, again, all panelists and attendees. Now, after the webinar, there's going to be an evaluation that we're going to send out to you in an email. And the evaluation, basically, it takes 5 minutes to fill out. I promise, 5 minutes to fill out. Also on that email, there's going to be some extra bonus content that we're going to send out with regard to today's webinar. So leading our discussion today is Miss Nicole Smith. Nicole is phenomenal. You guys are going to love her. She has over 20 years experience working in communication, leadership, conflict resolution, emotional intelligence, diversity and inclusion, and she is a phenomenal coach as well. So without further ado, Nicole, over to you.
Thank you, Amy. I always love your introductions. You make me sound so wonderful. So I have such a high bar to keep up to, a high standard, actually. Hello, everyone. We could have different time zones if you're, not in Charlotte where I'm located. So I'm gonna say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Hope everyone is doing well. As Amy stated, I am a leadership development coach. I own my own boutique leadership development and coaching practice, JMS Creative Leadership Solutions. I have worked with UNCC, probably for over a year and a half, 2 years now, but I'm also an alum and I love UNCC. My son is about to graduate. He's finishing up his last class, so he's about to graduate as well. So you can see how much we love UNC Charlotte, as well as giving back to UNC Charlotte. So welcome everyone. It's good to have you with us. As Amy stated, we have about 45 minutes, about 40 minutes of content, and then we will allow you to ask some questions. All righty, so just sit back, relax. It's gonna fly by, my friends. We're gonna have some interaction. So if you don't already know where your chat is located, go ahead and find that, because I'm gonna have you answer to some things in chat. You wanna answer to panelists and attendees, as Amy stated. Otherwise, it's just gonna go to us, which is fine. But we want everyone to, see your answers, because you not only learn from me, we learn from each other as well. So, as you see the learning objectives up on the screen, we've seen in the past 18 months or so, there's been disruption, right? There's been financial disruption, workplace disruption, racial and civil disruption, healthcare disruption, which has pushed diversity and inclusion front and center in the workplace, right? And it is more important than ever. And having an understanding of these terms and what they actually mean will help nurture a more engaging, more inclusion, and more productive workplace environment. And research has shown that people spend an average of 90,000 hours at work over a lifetime. 90,000 hours, that's equivalent to about 1/3 of your life. Okay, so if you're going to spend 1/3 of your life somewhere, shouldn't you spend it someplace you want to be, where people want you to be, like a sense of belonging? So where you feel included, where you feel valued and respected, and where there is a sense, as I stated, a sense of belonging and respect for people's talent and contribution when we're at work, right? 90,000 hours. So let's just sit back and think about that for a minute. So in this webinar, we're going to define and build awareness of what diversity and sensitivity and inclusion is and why it matters. We're going to look at some false assumptions to help overcome those personal biases and prejudice that we all have. We're going to discuss some ways to create a positive team atmosphere where you're comfortable coming to work, not just coming to work, but bringing your whole self to work, where employees take care of one another, you look out for each other, but you also hold each other accountable. And you want to look within and reflect on what you bring to work. And finally, we're going to explore just some simple strategies to begin building inclusive culture. Now, we're not going to, solve the whole diversity and inclusion epidemic that we have going on taking place today. However, I hope that we create a sense of curiosity to where you go out and you research some more, because that is what's going to help move this diversity, equity, and inclusion needle a little further in a positive direction. Is you learning, you having a growth mindset, you having a sense of curiosity to go out there and learn more. So you can learn more about your own culture and ethnicity and history, as well as how to become a better ally. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started here. So we're going to take this a little step further. This is where I want you to pull up your chat box. Go ahead and pull up your chat box right now. And when you hear the words inclusive workplace, what comes to mind? Go ahead and put that in chat for us. This is where this is going to be this interactive engagement. And yes, we have some participants raising their hand perfectly. You can come off mute as well as we look into the chat. So I think we have Beth that raised her hand. Go ahead, Beth. Let's see here. There we go. Go ahead, Beth.
I actually hit the wrong thing. I did not mean to raise my hand.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. All righty. I think there was someone else that had raised their hand. And while we're looking to bring that person off mute, I'm going to read some of the chat. Everyone's respected and included. Togetherness includes everyone. We're a team. All are connected, respected, involved, equality, appreciated, valued, included. There's some great answers. You can also look into chat too. So if I don't read it out loud, that's okay, but everyone can see your answer. Everyone is welcomed and appreciated. You feel valued, and your skills and your talents feel valuable. Part of a team, everyone's involved, equal opportunity, equal ability to participate in everything, being valued. So we're all, on the same page in regards to what inclusive workplace means. Another one, being open to others' opinion and feedback, different from our own. Yes, that diversity of thought. You want that diversity of thought, absolutely. So you've seen all these terms. So we talked about inclusive workplace. You've seen that a lot. You've seen that probably within your organization now in some memos or some announcements and so forth. You've also seen it in the media. You also see how other organizations are pushing now an inclusive environment. But you've seen these terms and more lately than you probably have in your entire lifetime, right? So today we're going to touch only on a few of these, but I would encourage you to review them all. Building awareness around these terms and what they mean will open doors and allow you to understand that although we're all different, we're more alike than we likely want to admit. So let's level set, okay, and start with what diversity and inclusion means. Let's look at some of the words that are popping up. And this is not an exhaustive list. And the list, what I call the vocabulary of diversity and inclusion glossary, it grows week by week, year by year. Exactly. So you have allyship, and one of the ones I like is just you see in that top left-hand corner, isms, racism, sexism, all those isms that we have to deal with. And of course, diversity. Yeah, someone said microaggression. Just learned this on Sunday. Yeah, microaggression. That subtle insult that you give to someone, and you have to understand the intent may not have been to insult. It's all about how it was received. It's the message that a microaggression does give. Thank you, Misty, for sharing that. So diversity and inclusion have always been two peas in a pod. They're both essential and related, but they're not interchangeable, nor does expertise in one translate to expertise in another. Diversity or diverse is composed of individuals in varying characteristics, including but not limited to religion, political beliefs, gender, race, ethnicity, education, socioeconomic background, sexual orientation, and geographic location. Yes, diversity that, let's just take the United States, for example, going from the West to the East, you're going to experience different demographics, different dynamic individuals as you travel from West to East or vice versa, North to South. All right. So that can make a big difference. Inclusion is seeking out, identifying, understanding, and removing barriers to full participation and belonging, intentionally including additional differences in a group or process, and encouraging high levels of both individuality and belonging. Diversity is about who gets a seat at the table. Inclusion is about who gets a voice. Harvard-trained lawyer and founder of the Verna Myers Company and VP of Inclusion Strategy at Netflix may have said it best. Diversity is being invited to the party. Inclusion is being asked to dance. This is Verna Myers. You can follow her on LinkedIn. You can Google her as well. Okay, diversity is being invited to the party. Inclusion is being asked to dance. What is interesting, my friends, is that inclusion can't exist without diversity. But diversity is defined by scorecards and metrics. Inclusion is about actions, behaviors, and the leadership capability to bring diversity to life. I want to repeat that and emphasize it. Inclusion is about actions, behaviors, and the leadership capability to bring it to life. I want that to hang there for a minute. The leadership capability to bring diversity to life. All my leaders that are on this call, on this webinar today, do you have the leadership capability to bring diversity to life? So why do we need to talk about inclusion? There's a lot of reasons why. You can put them in chat if you want as I continue, but there's a lot of reasons we need to talk about inclusion. There's a lot of reasons why. The benefits of an inclusive workplace. Although it's morally and ethically the right thing to do, creating an environment of workplace inclusion creates multiple benefits to an organization. So I want you real quick to put into chat, what are some of the benefits of having an inclusive workplace? Just real quick, put it into chat, get your fingers going into chat, or if you want to come off mute, you can just simply raise your hand and you can share with us. Employee engagement, innovation, absolutely. Better engagement, different opinions, different perspectives, wealth of views, I like that. Bring different perspectives brings a better workplace, collective ideas and innovation. I love the innovation, right? Psychological safety, absolutely, for all involved, increased growth, healthy work environment, accountability. You can see the benefits, right? You can see the benefits, better problem solving, absolutely. Higher job satisfaction, especially among your staff of color. Lower turnover, higher productivity, as some have already stated. Higher employee morale, improved problem solving, as someone has already stated, increased creativity and innovation, increased organizational flexibility, and the ability to learn from people at all levels, improving the quality of personnel through better recruitment and retention, not just getting them there in the workplace, but keeping them there. And decrease vulnerability to those legal challenges. As I said, you don't want to be on the 6 o'clock news, right? Or nowadays on social media. I think it gets to social media before it even gets to the 6 o'clock news today. It moves so fast, right? So for example, companies in the top quartile for racial and ethnic diversity are 35% more likely to have financial returns above their national industry medians. And those in the top quartile for gender diversity are 15% more likely to see greater financial return. And this is according to McKinsey Report Diversity Matters. Okay, you can go out there and Google and research. Like I said, we'd like to give you, more things to pique your curiosity. You can go out there to McKinsey in their report called Diversity Matters, and it's at the bottom of the screen as well. But also, Deloitte also has a nice report out there that notes that organizations with inclusive cultures were 6 times more likely to be innovative and agile. Okay, 8 times more likely to achieve better business outcomes, and twice as likely to meet or exceed financial goals. It seems like this just makes sense, right? With these kind of numbers, why would any organization not make diversity and inclusion as part of the fabric of their organization, as part of their culture? But beyond just the financial gains that an organization may experience, inclusion, true inclusion, not a laminated set of principles, not a piece of paper that's tacked on the cubicles or in the break room, but true inclusion delivers clear bottom and top line driving outcomes. It keeps virtual and dispersed teams connected. Seems very important now. It seems like a lot of people are still remaining remote, or at least have that flexibility. And then a lot of organizations are global. Okay, so it keeps those teams connected, efficient, and aligned. And these individuals are comfortable with one another, and they rely on one another for support. It allows the unspoken to be said. The quote, I'm putting in air quotes, the dumb questions, those ideas and musings that help teams to innovate on products, enhance service delivery, mitigate risk, drive efficiency, and so much more. And the only dumb question there is the one that's not asked. So there's really technically no dumb questions. True inclusion creates a safe place for these things to take place without judgment. It drives top talent retention. When employees are able to contribute meaningfully to their organization, it creates experiences of loyalty and engagement. And all these things contribute to the bottom line as well. So let's go back to the question I posed a little while ago when I said, when you hear the words inclusive workplace, what comes to mind? And you shared your thoughts in the chat box. Thank you for that. But sometimes for a lot of people, it's hard to put into words what inclusion actually is. But I want to let you know it when you see it. In broad strokes, here's what you should be looking for. Your employees report a sense of belonging. You can see it in their faces, in their body language, in their actions. Are they dragging themselves into work each day? When they come onto Zoom or whatever tool you're using for those conference calls and so forth, when they come onto the camera, do they look like they're ready to be productive and a willing participant in the meeting? What's their body language look like? Do they speak with their colleagues in a friendly manner? Do they look happy? I mean, it could be as simple as that. Ideas are voiced and tested. Do you have individuals that are holding back? You can see that in meetings. You can see that even on meetings using tools such as Zoom or WebEx, you can see when individuals are holding back. What's holding them back? And you, maybe as a leader, you have to think, are you holding them back? Are you not making them feel included? Do you have employees asking, what if? And one of the most powerful questions I know is, how might we increase our financial gains? How might we, increase our team? Okay. Not allowing their voices to be heard. Exactly, Gail. So you have to think about what's holding them back. Collaboration, okay? Collaboration and innovation thrive. They thrive during these meetings, during when you get together. You can just literally see the wheels turning with someone, and questions and concerns are raised. If something isn't right, do your employees bring it to everyone's attention or to the appropriate person's attention? Speaking up at any and every level. That's a norm. We're going to normalize that. Speaking up at any and every level. Are your employees, and even you personally, having open and honest conversations about what's going on? Having dialogue, not debates. Okay, this includes any product issues that may be taking place, process issues that are taking place at work, and even personnel issues that are taking place at work. So bias, you may have heard this term once or twice, really a lot in the past 18 months or so, but it's the evaluation of one group and its members relative to another, usually in a way considered to be unfair, preconceived, or unreasoned. And bias may be held by an individual, group, or even an institution, and can have negative or positive consequences. So how does this affect our actions? Bias affects us and our decision-making process in a number of different ways. It affects our perception, how we see people and perceive reality, our attitude, how we react towards certain people, our behaviors, how receptive and friendly we are towards certain people, our attention, which aspects of a person we pay attention to most, our listening skills, how much we actively listen to what certain people are saying, our micro affirmations, how much or how little we comfort certain people in certain situations. Yes. So I have a video that I'm going to share with you. And throughout the video, you're more than welcome to put into chat how it's making you feel. And definitely after the video, I'll solicit your feelings regarding the video. So I'm going to go ahead and press play. Amy, if you could give me a thumbs up that it is playing properly. So, how did this video, powerful video, how can I get a copy? It's called The Talk by P&G. So if you were just to go Google, it's out there on YouTube. It's called The Talk by P&G. Yes. So how has anyone Waterproof mascara is a must right now. Yes. Speaks to the racism and macroaggressions Black people face every day. Yes. Has anyone experienced this? Who wants to be vulnerable? Yes. Who wants to be vulnerable and courageous right now, knowing that vulnerability is a strength? Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Regina, Regina, I didn't know if you want to share. You just had your hand raised. Okay. All right. So of course, yes. So I have to admit, you know, my family and I, we've experienced that, but it's like he's being judged and he's the one that makes the final judgment in the end in a court of law, the people that come his way, that come into his courtroom. So yes, it is a very powerful video, but this could be, when it says talk about bias, you have to understand we're all biased. Okay. And we have different biases. We have biases with race. We have biases with gender when it comes to people. We have biases in regards to weight even. Okay. So there's different biases that we have to look at. And then on a lighter level of bias, we have biases against the stores we shop in, the cars we drive, the clothes we wear, the brands we buy. Yes. So it's not just people, culture, ethnicities. It's also in some of the tangible items we have bias against. Someone say, my children, I experienced a familiar interaction in a rural part of North Carolina while visiting for my daughter's soccer game. Absolutely. Yes. My son did travel ball, baseball, and we experienced it a lot in some of the games we went to. Yes. Gail, please.
Yes. Hi, everybody. I just want to share something. So my name is Gail Yvette Hardiman. That's the name that I was born under. But I'm married and my name became Gail Yvette Baltimore. Now, being from the North, and that has nothing to do with anything of where you're from, whether it's Southwest, East, or North, sometimes I can speak, I can turn it on and turn it off. So being invited in for interviews with my name being Gail Baltimore, I would probably be the only colored person sitting in the room. And the interviewer would come out and ask to speak to Gail Baltimore and go to another counterpart, not realizing that my name is Gail Baltimore. And when I stood, the facial expression was rather different.
Yes.
But it still didn't keep me from going in and performing. So I definitely want to just share that with everyone.
Yes, absolutely. You still show up and lean into your greatness, your strengths, and your talents, no matter the reaction you may get. Thank you, Gail, for sharing that. Yes. What Gail was speaking towards too, I want you to write this down because it could be, again, a little nugget for you to go and research. There's a term called code switching. And it's very popular among BIPOC, which is Black indigenous people of color, where you code switch depending on who you're with, meaning how proper is your speak versus the slang you use maybe around friends and family, for all of us, okay? For all of us, I have to make that a point, for all of us, but it is very popular, very evident, and the term is used a lot in the Black community. So it's called code switching. Yes, thank you, Amy, for putting that. Yes, yes, it is our way of life in the corporate world. Yes, it's very popular among the Black community or African-American community, however you identify within your race. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that, Gail. So in regards to biases, we'll start playing again. In regards to biases, and specifically with thank you, Amy. Amy put the definition in there. Amy is on it today. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Workplace decisions impacted by bias. The point is that biases can impact any number of decisions that we are involved in on a daily basis. And these are just a few, okay? So listening to people's ideas and suggestions, biases play heavy. How you treat your customers, your internal and external customers and clients you serve, choosing board members, hiring decisions, recruiting efforts, interviewing, you're selecting and how you even conduct the interviews, your mentoring decision, who gets assigned a mentor or not, job assignments is what I like to call those stretch projects to help develop you in certain skill sets. Who gets those stretch assignments? Training opportunities. Sometimes those that are not very vocal or very loud in regards to, hey, I want professional development. They sometimes don't get those opportunities. Those are called the quiet voices versus the louder voices. And neither one of them is wrong. Okay. It's just you have people in the workplace are softer voices and our louder voices. Perfectly fine. We need both. Promotional decisions, how you decide to make those promotions, who gets the promotions, performance reviews, how you rate individuals. Yes, bias play huge in your performance reviews. And of course, those pay increases. Who gets pay increases if it's not a standard process in regards to your pay increases. So you can see where your biases can play into the workplace. In the case of explicit or conscious bias, because when we talk about biases, normally we speak of unconscious biases, but in explicit or conscious bias, the person is very clear about his or her feelings and attitudes and related behaviors, and they're conducted with intent. Okay, I like whites more than blacks, or I like blacks more than white, or fill in the blank wherever. There it's conducted with intent. The conscious bias in its extreme characterized by overt negative behavior. It can be expressed through physical and verbal harassment or through more subtle means such as exclusion. As represented in this picture of an iceberg, what you see is what you get. So the top 10% is what we normally see with a real iceberg. When you see an iceberg, a picture of it like this, or in a book or on a TV show, you see 10% of the iceberg. What you're missing is that bottom 90% of the iceberg. Think of that with individuals and people and cultures and ethnicities, okay? You're seeing just the top 10%. You're only seeing the 10%. That's what you're judging them on, and you're not seeing the bottom 90%. Unconscious or implicit bias operates outside the person's awareness and can be in direct contradiction to a person's beliefs and values. And what's so dangerous about implicit or unconscious bias, it's one and the same, is that it automatically seeps into a person's their behavior, their attitude, and it's outside the full awareness of that person. So going back to our original example with unconscious bias, you might just simply sit further away from the person that you're saying you do not like, whether they're a Black person, a white person, different religion that you visibly can see, their weight and so forth. You just simply sit further back versus saying it out loud. The reason why we have unconscious bias is because we're exposed to 11 million pieces of information a day. And as humans, we can only effectively deal with about 40 pieces of information at any one time. We have to reserve our conscious brain for those new situations. We primarily use it when we have to be rational, careful, analytical, slow, and deliberate on the decisions that we're making. And just so you know, you make 35,000 decisions a day. So your biases help you create these quick shortcuts, which can have negative consequences at times. It's simply not efficient for you to use your slow part of your brain, which is your frontal lobe, every time you have to make a decision, okay? So as a result, by relying on the same cognitive process that makes us efficient learners and ensure our survival when facing threats, we learn through the pattern repetition or those shortcuts. When these two concepts become associated with one another in memory, we create automatic shortcuts to help us function. And these shortcuts entail sorting and categorizing information to determine what's helpful and useful, and what's helpful and not helpful. These shortcuts can happen quickly and unconsciously. So what happens is that sometimes we apply these shortcuts to situations in which they don't work, or we sometimes apply rules to complex situations inappropriately. Okay, so I want to take a look at chat like that. Could this be compared to the 80-20 rule? Gail, were you referring to the iceberg, the 80-20 rule? I want to make sure you know, the 80-20 rule is used for a lot of different things. So I don't want to just say a blanket yes. But in regards to the iceberg, just know that when you are introduced to someone new or someone, that comes into, yes, Amy, that comes into your life or into your space, that you're only right then and there seeing a quick first impression, which is usually about 3 to 5 seconds, and you're basing it only off of 10% of what you see. You haven't even talked to them yet. Okay. So what activates our biases? There are some conditions that may trigger your unconscious bias, right? Sometimes we think we have it under control and not all the time. So visible identity, your age, gender, race, pressure to make quick decisions, when you're mental overload, fatigue, or stressed, multitasking, which, as we know, there's no such thing, is basically when you just have a lot going on. Okay. Perceived lack of accountability, lack of information. When you just don't know, and you go, okay, just go ahead and do it, and you have a lack of information. So these things can activate your biases. But real quick in chat, I just want you to answer as I continue. Do you feel like you help create an inclusive workplace? So you can just put yes or no. Sometimes, most of the time, maybe, not too sure. Okay, I tried. I like that. Someone said, yeah. Yes. Okay. So just something to just start you thinking. All right. That inclusive workplace. But inclusion, I want you to know, is the secret sauce. It is the secret sauce. Yeah. Yeah, I see where everyone's saying, I agree. There's always more we can do. Yes, I try my best. Yes, and there's just sometimes you're just not too sure. You got to check your biases. But creating that culture shift to foster diversity and inclusion so that everyone feels heard is tough. I'm not going to lie to you. It's going to be uncomfortable. But with that discomfort comes change. That's where I said that's where the magic begins, is when we move beyond our comfort zone, comes change. And as we've seen in the last few months, it's more important than ever to do something about it now, not tomorrow, but today. So let's talk about a couple of strategies. These are quick strategies. We could talk all day about some different strategies and different examples and even case studies, but I'm gonna give you some quick ones to walk away with. I want you to let your employees know that they are valuable, not in regards to like a monetary standpoint, but rather that what they do is valuable, what they contribute to the company is valuable, their time, their energy, their ideas. And do you know what we all have in common? Our greatest desire is to be heard and seen and respected and valued. That is inclusion, a sense of belonging. We may not all want our names in lights, but we want to be heard, seen, respected, and valued. You want to take a walk in their shoes with all your employees. Empathy is huge. Empathy is your leadership superpower. Understand and feel their perspective, feel their pain in your heart. What's going on? So when situations happen in society, racial disruption, civil disruption, social disruption, whatever it may be, listen to them and hear their perspective and understand that this is their story and this is how it impacts them, their attitude and behavior towards the situation. You want to try to put yourself in their place. Imagine what it's like to be them. Take on a firsthand perspective of others. That's where that empathy comes in. Each one of your employees is with your company for a reason. Encourage them to voice their ideas. This is where I say you want to encourage the diversity of thought. Even if the idea may need some work, that's okay. All ideas aren't like full out blown, the way it's going to be executed and implemented. We might have to massage it a little bit, and that's fine, but it's still important that everyone has his or her say. This will show that each team member is valuable and that their input is just as important as the fellow coworkers. Okay, I want you to listen with intent. Okay, you shouldn't have to do all those little things they tell you to do to show you're paying attention if you're actually paying attention. Okay, so listen with intent. And if you don't want to at that time, or you just don't have the time, say, hey, can we talk about this later? I want to give you the attention that you deserve. Okay. Encourage build trust. I'm moving ahead in the strategies here, but build trust. One of the best ways to build trust is to simply be honest and authentic. Okay. If you have to follow up with, I don't know, I have to check into that. Or please tell me more. I am interested. And that's okay. That's okay. Please tell me more. Oh, I didn't know that. Please explain it to me. Another way to build trust is walk the talk. I want you to be reliable. Do what you say you're going to do. And if you can't, let them know that you can't do that. And here's why. I want you to watch your reactions. If you scoff, dismiss, or laugh at someone else's ideas or contributions or their feelings around something, you'll ruin your chances of trust. Remember, a team is not just a bunch of people working together. A team is people that trust each other. So you have to build that trust with each other. This is the one I was excited about. I was telling you about it early. I want you to encourage positive communication. 80% of your words should be positive. I'm going to challenge you. Can 80% of your words for the rest of the week be positive? A positive communicator sounds like, what can I learn from the situation? How can I help you? I want to understand. Make sure I hear what you're saying. Can you please clarify? Also, too, I want you to mix up your communication. With us today, it's all Zoom or WebEx or Skype or whichever. Mix up your communication. Verbal, some email, some text, some phone. Remember the phone? We used to use that a lot. The other thing is, just to make sure that you have good communication between a boss or manager, his or her employees. It's very essential for a positive working relationship. Yes, Kelly, positive communication and positive intent. This is where I say if your intentions are good, probably going to turn out well. It's going to turn out and go into a positive direction if your intent is good. Set expectations. These can be for yourself as well as for your employees. Setting expectations is about helping people understand the bigger picture. All right. With this bigger picture, people will understand better why they're being asked to do something and will commit more easily. But also, too, like I said earlier, being honest about what you can and cannot do. If your bandwidth is full, can't do it at this time. Yes, I'll be happy to do it. No, I cannot do it. Set the bar high. Foster a safe environment where people are encouraged to make mistakes. I want everyone here, strive for excellence, not for perfection. That will allow you to make mistakes. Get up, dust yourself off, move forward. Even in the time that we're in, if something was said where you may have offended someone, insulted someone, this is where you go back. When you tell that person, I want to apologize. It wasn't my intent to insult or offend. And it doesn't matter what it's about. It could have been a project you're working on, or it could have been something said in regards to the racial disruption that's taking place. Whatever it is, it's okay to make mistakes, but how can we learn from them? And with that said, you're a work in progress. You're a work in progress, all right? When people thrive and they want to learn, performance will follow. You need to routinely check your thought process and your decisions for any possible bias. In other words, I want you to adopt a thoughtful, deliberate, intentional, and self-aware process for inspecting how your decisions are being made specifically in the workplace. Okay, how you're interacting with each other. Remember, you are a work in progress. All of us are. So with that said, do you feel like your current workplace is an inclusive environment? Do you feel like your workplace is an inclusive environment? Let's see if anyone will be brave and courageous to answer. I feel like it is, but employees say differently. Yes, okay. I'm waiting for sometimes, but not often. Yes, we could do better. Somewhat, we're continuing to have a conversation. Thank you. Thank you for everyone for sharing. Someone said, absolutely not. Well, we have some work to do, and that's okay. All right, most of the time, not 100%. And that's usually what I see, and that's okay. And thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing. But with that said, what can you specifically do to help create a more inclusive workplace? It's the hope that this session will inspire reflection, and it will lead to some action. So while I'm continuing, go ahead and put it into chat. What can you specifically do to help create a more inclusive workplace? Listen better. Absolutely. You know, listen better. Not listening to respond, but listening to understand and listening to learn more. Be intentional and listen. And positive, inclusive attitude can be contagious. Absolutely. So, although it's not a guarantee, given the amount of self-work that is necessary to achieve this end, you know, you still can be committed to diversity and inclusion. And you have to remain committed in noticing and setting aside your own biases and finding ways to create a more inclusive workplace. Listen, transformation is a result of practice. You have to practice, okay? And it is a journey. Evolution of this is and your evolution is your work. Your transformation is your work. No one said it was always it was always going to be easy, but my friends, it will be so well worth it. So well worth it. Cultivating inclusion is an evolving process with constantly moving targets. You learn something new every day. You're never done. You're never done. A company's goal and tactics must evolve along with the needs of current and potential client. So for the last 40 minutes or so, we've talked about diversity inclusion and what some of these terms mean and why it's important, and even some strategies on how to start creating a more inclusive workplace and conversations to get things moving forward. Okay, this is just a start. This is not a check mark. The hard work starts now. So implementing some of these strategies, having some self-awareness, okay, doing some self-reflection, and sometimes having the hard conversations, uncomfortable conversations. So are your next steps. So I ask, are you ready to take that next step?
So Nicole, we're going to open it up to questions now, but Regina Johnson had a terrific question. She said, how can you do that if you're not the boss, especially if the environment is resistant? And that's one thing that I hear a lot is, well, I'm not in charge. And so I'd love to hear your feedback. That's a great question.
Yeah, it is a great question. First of all, I get that question a lot. You don't have to be in charge. You can be what we call an inclusive agent or change agent, as they say in the workplace. And it's all, Regina, it's about you and your attitude and your behavior and how you show up at work. If you're showing up, okay, being the best version of yourself, helping to minimize your biases, because my friends, we're never going to remove all of them. Minimize your biases. How can I say you'll manage yourself to hopefully influence others? Okay. And this is where you have some of those hard conversations and maybe even have that dialogue with your colleagues. Because trust me, Virginia, there are colleagues in the workplace that want to talk about it as well. Okay. And so I don't know how brave you are, Regina. If you want to go to the resource that will help you start the initiative or start the conversations, whether that's human resources business partner, your team lead, your manager, whoever it may be, and say, hi, I think it's about time we get started in regards to fostering an inclusive environment. Okay. But all in all, Regina, this is you in regards to managing your behavior, your attitude towards your biases and towards other people. And hopefully that will influence others to say, I like what Regina's doing. I like how she's showing up. I want to show up that way as well. Okay. And of course, I have to say, if it is a toxic environment, definitely be brave enough to go to human resources and bring it to their attention in regards to any type of prejudice, discrimination, or racism.
Nicole, while we're waiting for some more questions to come in, if you'll move to the next slide, just as a reminder to everybody, we would love to stay connected with you. My contact information is on here. And one of the things with corporate custom training as part of continuing ed, we actually can bring this presentation and customize it specifically to your organization. So, shoot me an email, let me know if you would be interested in having this delivered to your team or to your organization. Let's connect on LinkedIn as well. And of course, we've got our 2 websites, Corporate Custom Training, as well as our Continuing Ed website. So please check out some of the classes that we've got available as well. So yeah, we would love the opportunity to work with everyone a little bit further, because this is such an important topic. So
and Amy, I was seeing Regina's response. She says, I've tried unsuccessfully. And this is where I say, I'm gonna take a deep breath when I say this. If this is not the culture that you want to be in the workplace, okay? If this is not a culture where you feel like everyone can bring their whole selves to work and thrive, and you have unsuccessfully tried over and over again, there might be some decisions that you need to make. Do you want to remain in that culture? And I took a deep breath, because I am never telling anyone leave. However, we are not trees. We can move. And so this is where I say, if something or somewhere is not a culture that helps you thrive and help you be your whole self and have you feel valued, respected, seen, and heard, there are other cultures and other organizations that will. Okay. So if you have a supervisor or a leader that is making it uncomfortable, this is where I say there is someone within your organization that will listen. Okay. And so you just have to take time sometimes to find that person to make that movement. Okay.
Yeah, and Nicole, that's something you and I have seen working together with this particular topic, is that a lot of companies are now, which you're thinking, okay, why did it take so long? But why are they now just seeing the importance, and they're making strides, to make things better. And so that's one thing I would tell everybody too, is to if you see that there are small incremental changes happening, be patient. Rome wasn't built in a day. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Amy, I'm glad you said that, because whenever I work with organizations to initiate a D&I type of initiative, that's the first thing I say. It will not happen overnight. And as employees, we have to be patient with that as well, because it will not happen overnight. And the organization, the leader, they will fumble. They will fumble. And they will also to solicit your feedback, and you have to be ready to give that feedback. You want them to do something. Now you have to be a willing participant in that. Yes.
Just one quick reminder, if we've got a few other questions coming in. I'm seeing lots of great feedback about today's session. Please don't forget, you're going to get an email this afternoon with an evaluation in there. Please take the time to fill that out and provide your feedback to us. We want to learn how we can make this even better for future delivery. So we would love to get your feedback. So.
I see a question, someone's asking, how is inclusion different? Is this in regard, like how to foster inclusion is different?
There was a question about how today's presentation was very similar to Patrick Lencioni's 5 dysfunctions of a team.
Yeah.
And so, how is inclusion different than building a high performance team?
Okay, so building a high performance team, you're going to do some of the same tactics in regards to, because you're helping everyone feel valued. You're helping everyone feel seen, respected, and heard. And that is building a team, but also that is also fostering inclusion, making everyone feel like there's a sense of belonging. Their input matters. There's strategies in regards to when you're sitting in meetings. I'll just give this one tip, Amy. When you're sitting in meetings with inclusion, to make sure that everyone on your team has had an opportunity for their voice to be heard, for them to be seen, for them to be respected, and to be valued. You know, if you have a quiet person on the team, making sure you're saying, Michael, you know, I just want to make sure, do you have any input today? And Michael may say, no, I'm good. Thank you for asking. He feels seen, he feels valued, he feels respected. But also too, building up a team also means you have to build trust. And for someone to feel like they belong, they have to trust you. You have to build trust and rapport, okay, with your team, but you also have to build trust and rapport with an individual, okay, as a leader, to make sure that they feel a sense of belonging. It's like they say, you build that trust, and once that trust is gone, it takes a long time to build it back up. So yes, a lot of these leadership methods and so forth, dysfunctions of a team and so forth, play right along into inclusion. Because remember, diversity is metrics and scorecards. Inclusion is about the people. It's about how you make one feel. Okay, so it's a lot of the leadership methods in regards to team and team building and so forth. It follows along the same lines of inclusion, making someone feel included. I don't know if that helped or not.
All right, what other questions might you have?
So for my experience, oh, okay, I'm seeing it coming. How can someone continue the diversity? Just fade it. This seems to be proper right, but I might continue down the road. So Tracy's asking, you know, how to keep it moving. The first thing I have to say is, if diversity, equity, and inclusion is an initiative that we want to keep going, and you hear me keep saying initiative, you never heard me say project. So this is where we have to work with leadership to say, you know, what are the outcomes? What are the goals year after year? This is a continued process. Just because you hire a diversity and inclusion person, they're not a one-man team or show. There is actually affinity groups, resource groups, activities, metrics, scorecards, assessments that have to be done year after year after year, okay, to keep it going. Because remember, you have new talent coming in. So you have initiatives to bring in new talent for recruiting, but what are the initiatives to retain them? So it follows the whole employee life cycle, all right? The whole employee life cycle, and it goes year after year after year. This is where I said it's not a project and it's not a check box. So what is your organization doing, and are they being transparent in their goals each year? Each year. And so when it feels like it's faded, this is where the affinity groups, the sponsors of the affinity groups, what do we need to do to keep it moving, to keep people engaged? It's part of the employee engagement process as well. Okay. Oh, we have I have like a one-off. I would love for Kristen, if you could email Amy real quick. I'm gonna go back to your email. Kristen, if you could email Amy, and I also put my email in the chat as well, but if you could email Amy that question that you have, because that's going to be longer than a 30-second, 20-second answer. Okay. All right.
Great.
Okay.
Well, as we come to the last 2 minutes, just wanted to remind everybody too, that we have several other fabulous free webinars coming up. The next one is going to be August 17th. It's 3 tips to becoming a more dynamic leader. And my colleague who is on with us today, Jeff Anderson. Jeff, if you want to flash your camera, you can. He's going to be leading this discussion for us. There he is. So we're excited about having this delivered in August. October, we're going to be talking about competitive advantage from the inside out. And this is for you, not necessarily for your company, but your competitive advantage. And then I'll be back in January talking about how to use radical candor to drive results. So we've got 3 great webinars. Again, please share the webinar link to everybody. And even if you can't make it, feel free to register for the webinar. We'll send you the recording and all the bonus content anyway. But yeah, I just want to say, thank you to everybody for being online today. Great content, great discussion. I feel so encouraged, and I'm excited about some of the really cool ideas that came across in today's chat.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. And thank you for sharing, engaging, and being vulnerable. That's what we need. It is uncomfortable at times, but it has to be for change to happen.
Yep. All right. Thank you, everybody. Please don't forget to fill out the evaluation, and we'll see you in August.